Good evening, good morning, good day, wherever you are located. I welcome you to this 10th session of the Afghan Association of Ontario program on awareness regarding racism, discrimination, hatred, and Islamophobia. This is the 10th session, and I apologize that it took a few seconds of my time to share it on certain pages. Today, this program is just going to be between you and me, you, the viewers, and me. I don't have any guests to discuss the issue with. However, this is a program that I designed so that I can give an update of what we have discovered so far in the 9 sessions that we covered with people who have expertise and those who have experienced racism or have not experienced their experience that they shared with us. I will appreciate if you could participate with me through your comments, and instead of having a guest here on Zoom with me, you will be my guests, and you can participate in this program through your comments and questions. This program is the initiative of the Afghan Association of Ontario, and it is partially funded by the Government of Canada, and the purpose is to increase awareness in the province of Ontario of what we refer to as the triangle of evil, that is racism, discrimination, and hatred, which in this particular case, in terms of the Afghan Association and the Muslim community in Ontario, it manifests in the form of Islamophobia. In today's program, what I would like to do is to summarize what we discovered through all the interviews that I had carried out so far with people with expertise and experience, and I'm going to summarize it and draw certain conclusions from it as to what can be done in order to curtail this situation. One of the biggest realizations that I had when I interviewed many people in this regard was that this phenomenon of racism, if we separate it from what we refer to as the unconscious bias, it is really marginal in the Canadian society. Canadian society is a multicultural society, and multiculturalism has been accepted by the mainstream Canadian society, as well as by the immigrant communities. They have all embraced multiculturalism in this country. However, and this is a big however that I want to mention, that if you take a glass of clean water and you put a small drop of dirt in it, it will contaminate the whole thing. And because it's such a marginal number of people who really manifest hatred and racism in the country that it somehow contaminates the whole atmosphere. And that's why it is important that we are all aware of it so that we do not allow it to grow uncontrolled and then to harm the society and all of us. So in today's program, what I have done is I have collected some statistics and information, and I'm going to share them with you. The first thing that I want to mention, and that is that Statistics Canada keeps a variety of statistics related to the Canadian society, and these statistics are used by all levels of governments, the federal government, the provincial government, and the municipal governments. They use these statistics and the information in order to create policies, public policies, social policies, economic policies, and find out what are the needs of the society in that time so that the government policies are tuned to the requirements of the population. One of the statistics that they have collected is also on reported cases of racism and hatred. And what these statistics show is that in the past 2 years, since 2020, reported cases of hatred and racism have increased in Canada by 68%. This is the average, 68%. And when statistics go further into it, we find out that reported cases of Islamophobia has increased by 72%. Reported cases of anti-Semitism, that is hatred of the Jewish people, has increased by 68%. And what surprised me was also that there was a 64% increase of hatred incidents against the Catholics. I have been living in Canada for over 35 years, 37 years to be exact, and I thought that the Catholics in Canada was really part of the mainstream. But it appears that that is not the case, so I stand corrected. I also found out in my interviews with the people that we interviewed was that cases of racism and of Islamophobia or even discrimination is very rare in professional environments and in white-collar workplaces. So that means that we can draw certain lessons from it, from these statistics and these facts. I also found out that there is more evidence of hatred and racism when the victims are part of the visible minorities. And that visible minority can be either identified by their color, by their race, or by the kind of clothes that they wear. For example, observant Muslim women who wear a hijab, they are also part of visible minorities. And so these people experience or become victims of hatred and racism much more than people who cannot be distinguished, and they don't have any distinguishing identifiers attached to them, either their clothes or their color or their race or things like that. So I would like you to draw your conclusions from that, but this is how it is. There is somebody, Ola Mahidin Sadri has made a comment. This is very impressive and necessary. Thank you very much, Mr. Sadri, for your participation and for listening to this program. All other viewers, if there are any viewers who are watching this program, please do not be shy, participate in this, ask your questions, make your comments, and make this a more interactive program than just a monologue that I will be involved in. So please have your comments and your experience. If you have the courage to share your experience, if you have been a victim of hatred or racism, then please share it with us. If you have any questions in this regard, then also I will be willing to participate in that discussion and in debating it. So having said that even though it's a small minority of people who manifest this disease of hatred and racism and discrimination, nevertheless, it exists in the society, and moreover, it is on the rise. And that is very important fact to pay attention to. The purpose of this initiative by the Afghan Association of Ontario is to increase awareness of this phenomenon, not only so that more people in the immigrant communities, in the visible minorities become aware of it, but also that mainstream people in the Canadian society also know about it, that this evil exists, and that if we are not aware of it, and if governments and organizations and individuals do not take certain actions, it might get out of control, and then at the end it will bite us. So this is a good initiative by the Afghan Association, and we will also acknowledge that it is partially funded by the Government of Canada, which means that the Government of Canada is aware that this is a problem. As a matter of fact, at the level of the Canadian Parliament, there have been committees, standing committees, who have discussed this issue all over Canada, and they have made certain recommendations. And this kind of review of this phenomenon is ongoing. In today's program, or the few minutes that are left, what I would like to do is just to summarize what can the various institutions in Canada do in order to manage this issue, and also to take certain actions so that the issue doesn't get out of control. As a matter of fact, the goal should be to eliminate it altogether. So let's look at it. What can we do at the government level? So governments, they form their social official policies. Government policies are based on statistics that Statistics Canada gather periodically from all over Canada. As a matter of fact, there is a law that when Statistics Canada wants to collect that various types of information, that citizens are obligated to participate in it, so that the government, when the government drafts a particular policy, it is based on facts and it responds to the social needs of the Canadians. So in that respect, I think that based on the statistics, all levels of governments in Canada are required to create certain policies. And they do. The Canadian government this year appointed a special representative to tackle Islamophobia, to collect information and to come up with policies of how to eliminate Islamophobia from Canadian society and what they can do to curtail it and to manage it so that people do not become victims of Islamophobia. This policy then needs to be adopted by all levels of government, and I believe that all levels of government, whether we look at the federal government, the provincial government, or even the municipal government, there is a zero tolerance policy when it comes to racism, hatred, and discrimination. Yet, this thing does exist in the society. So these levels of government have to be aware of it. And as a matter of fact, in this program, I did interview 2 people from the law enforcement institutions from the Toronto area, and they revealed a lot of information, and what said that most police forces in Canada have a special unit that deals with issues of hatred and racism, and that hatred could be in any form, whether it's anti-Semitism, which is racism against the visible minority, or Islamophobia. These units exist, and they not only collect information, but they take action against those who violate it. So that is a good thing that has happened, and I would like to share this information with the viewers, and I hope the viewers will participate in this discussion with me, or use that information when they're dealing with, or when I come later on in the list of items to, on an individual basis, what can we do in order to combat hatred and racism in whatever form it is. Now, I also asked the people that I interviewed, I asked the questions as to what can the non-government organizations, community organizations, and religious organizations, faith groups can do in order to fight, in order to combat, in order to reduce the impact of this triangle of evil. And it is surprising to find out that certain organizations, for example, the Jewish community, not only in Canada, but I believe all over the world, they have a group, a monitoring group called B'nai B'rith. And this B'nai B'rith takes statistics of anti-Semitism and then present it to authorities so that they can lobby for government policies and legislations to take into account this hatred and anti-Semitism. I also found out that the Catholic Church has a monitoring organization that monitors all incidents against the Catholics. So they can also influence government policies. I haven't found out that the Muslim community has yet come up with a unified organization that will monitor Islamophobia in Canada. I believe there is an organization. I hope that if people in that organization watch this program, to reach out to me so we can coordinate, and perhaps I can interview them for this program so they can express their opinions and what can be done, and how we can all combine our efforts so that our effort to curtail hatred and Islamophobia and racism can be more effective. So that's one item that the nonprofit organizations can do. The other thing that they can do is to prepare its membership so that in one of the previous programs, I mentioned that a community organization is like a building, an architectural building, and the members of that community are like the building blocks. So if they can train the members of the community to be a very solid building blocks of that community, then they can resist and be more effective in resisting any kind of hatred and racism and discrimination. And the community then can stay healthy and not be a victim of this triangle of evil. The other thing that these community organizations can do, and to a certain extent they are already doing it, is to create educational programs, awareness programs. Perhaps the Afghan Association of Ontario having this program is maybe part of that overall thing, is that if there is an educational program not only to educate community members of the visible minorities, of the faith groups who become victims of hatred and racism, but also the mainstream Canadian society, and they become aware of these problems, then we can combine our resources and fight it together. So that is another thing that these organizations can do. The other thing is that this phenomenon is all over Canada, and we cannot fight it individually. So one organization is not enough. And I believe there is a faith community where members of various faiths come together and they discuss issues that are common to all faiths in Canada. I hope that group, members from that group, also will watch this program and then will reach out to us so that we can combine our efforts and participate in that kind of awareness and educational programs more effectively. In the last part of this program, what I want to do is, okay, so we covered what can the government do, which kind of policies they should implement. We talked about the non-government organizations and community organizations, what they can do in order to fight racism and discrimination and hatred in all its forms. Now, as individuals, what we can do, and that is also a very important element that I think we should talk about, and at the same time, let's do something as individuals. So one item that I want to mention that we can do as individuals is to be good ambassadors of our faith and of our community. In a previous program, I talked about the Medina model, which was applied in the time of Prophet Muhammad, and it had 5 elements that I talked about. I think that we as individuals, if we can embrace those 5 elements, and that is to work on ourselves so that we can be the best and the bigger and better version of ourselves. Then we focus on our family. So make sure that members of our family are also at their best version, and they can be good ambassadors of our faith and of our community. The third thing is education, to work to educate ourselves, to be involved in all kinds of educational activities so that we can be at the cutting edge of whatever technologies, whatever science is available in the society at this time to reach to that level. The fourth element is economic activity. So if we as individuals can work in such a way that we and our families can participate actively in the economic activities of Canada in all aspects of the Canadian society, then we have actually performed our citizenship obligations. We can be in that way a good, productive citizens of this society. The last element, the fifth element of the Medina model that was devised by Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was civic activities. He advised when the Muslims from Mecca migrated to Medina, one of his policies was that these Muslims should not be ghettoized. They should not live in a ghetto and not interact with people of other faiths in Medina. Actually, he devised a method where the Muslims and the non-Muslims can mingle and interact with each other so that to the benefit of the entire city where citizens of different faiths live there. So here also, when we look at some successful communities in the Canadian society, for example, we know that the Jewish community is very successful. We know that the Ismaili community is very successful. But then when you look at their community activities, you will find out that both of those communities follow the Medina model, even though they may not call it the Medina model. But this was a model that was developed some 1450 years ago in Medina, which is now located in Saudi Arabia, and it was applied there. And that was one of the successes that the Muslim faith suddenly spread all over the Middle East and now all over the world. Now, it's our job as those who embraced the Muslim faith to embrace that model that Prophet Muhammad preached for Medina and do it here also. And if we do that, then I am sure that incidents of hatred against Muslims and fear of Islam in the form of Islamophobia is going to be eliminated. Our time is coming to an end, and I wish there would have been more participation from the viewers. There wasn't enough participation, but that is okay. I hope that you will be able to watch the replay of this one. This program that the Afghan Association of Ontario has initiated, all these things will be also saved to a YouTube channel. And as a matter of fact, all the previous interviews were also on YouTube channel. And what I will do is to put the link to the YouTube channel in the comments after the program is over. So you can go to the comments and then you can go and watch the previous episodes of where I brought expertise and experts in this field, and I interviewed them and they shared their ideas with us. So you can watch them also. At the end of the program, what I would like to do is to acknowledge that this program is partially funded by the government of Canada. So I'm going to share the screen so you can watch it. So this program, which is initiated by the Afghan Association of Ontario to confront racism, discrimination, and Islamophobia in Ontario, is a program that is partially funded by the government of Canada. And so this is our acknowledgement. And at the end, I would like to say thank you very much for viewing this program. I hope you will write your comments, and I hope you will share it on your social media pages so that more Canadians can find out about it and hopefully become aware of this and perhaps take some actions so that the Canadian society is really a multicultural society. It's a pluralistic society where we don't hate each other, where we don't discriminate against each other, but we live in harmony and respect for our ideas, opinions, and faiths. And that is my goal, and that's my wish and my hope for Canada. So thank you very much for watching this program. And until next week, I want to say goodbye and thank you very much.